Hey, Lee here, helping you become a better plant parent. Let's not only get your houseplants to survive, but to thrive throughout these winter months. Now, in the winter, you should expect the hours of sunlight to be reduced, and I mean dramatically reduced. Where I live, in July, we go from 15 hours of sunlight a day to just 9 hours. That's like, well, 9 minus 5, and then carry the 1. That's like a lot less. With fewer hours of sunlight, your plants are going to be struggling to do their best, so what you want to do is ideally increase the duration or the intensity of light that your plants are getting throughout the winter. For example, that might mean moving plants closer to your windows, choosing better windows. For me, that's a south-facing window. It might mean keeping your blinds open or moving things from your windows that are obstructing the light reaching your plants. But of course, this isn't always possible. You might not just be able to rearrange your entire house just because it's a little chilly and dark outside. So let's talk about more practical ideas. When you understand that your houseplants are getting less light, you also understand that they're growing slower, and slower growth means that they're absorbing water from their root systems at a slower rate. Which brings us to talking about changing the way that we water our plants. Most of us are chronic overwaterers anyway, and we should probably bring our watering schedule way down. And that watering schedule is watering frequency, not necessarily the amount of water that we're giving our plants each separate watering session. In my home, that means adding anywhere between 2 and 7 extra days to my watering schedule. And of course, that does vary depending on the plant. My snake plant, for example, goes from getting water every 3 weeks to about every 4 weeks. My ZZ plant goes from getting water very rarely to practically never, and something like a Monstera might be getting water once a week and extending that to once every 10 days. The most important thing is understanding your plants and monitoring them so that you're not overwatering them. Some plants can be more susceptible to root rot, and in the winter, when water absorption slows down, those plants that are more susceptible can be in even more danger if you're not changing the watering schedule, and that leads to overwatering. Water for too long in your pot leads to root death. It is completely reasonable to water your plants on a strict schedule, but if you're never changing that schedule, regardless of the temperature, amount of light exposure, or other factors in your home, then you're probably doing your plants a disservice. I hope that in this spring, summer, and early fall, you have been fertilizing your plants. Trust me, your plants will be thanking you. But in the winter, you will need to reduce or completely stop your fertilizing schedule. Of course, it does depend on what plant you have, and if your plant is not growing at all or dies back in the winter, I would stop fertilizing completely. But if your plants are continuing to grow, of course, you can continue fertilizing at a reduced rate. For example, if you've been using half-strength fertilizer every other week, you can switch to every 3rd week, or even a quarter strength of the fertilizer. It really depends on what your plants have been used to. And whatever you do, do not start fertilizing your plants for the first time in the winter. You'll be much better off starting in the spring when your plants are actually needing it and getting into a good routine. Tracking watering and fertilizing can be a little challenging at times. I actually created my own tracking sheet that helps me remain really consistent, especially when I'm fertilizing my plants with lots of different products. You can find it in my Etsy store through the description. Now, this is the most important thing that you need to think about when you're going into winter. What are your windows like? Yeah, I know, just hear me out, and I promise I won't send the windows indoors people to your house. If you have newer windows with good insulation, you can actually move your plants much closer to the windows for increased light exposure. And most plants will even be fine touching the actual windows all year round. If you have older windows with poor insulation, or you notice that lots of condensation builds up on those windows, you may want to move your plants just a little bit farther back. The lower temperatures can affect the health of your plant. Drafts are a real thing, and cold exposure over a long period of time can damage your plants. You also need to be aware of heating sources inside your house. I wouldn't recommend moving any sensitive plants closer to vents or radiators. Plants love consistency, and extreme heat can dry out the air around those plants, which can really affect how leaves grow, especially new leaves on the Monstera. The amount of people posting their wilted plants on Reddit asking what's wrong while their plant is literally sitting on top of a radiator is astounding, and I don't want that to happen to you. If you're looking to learn more so you can start fertilizing your plants in the spring, you can check out this video here, or if you're hoping to learn more about soil, check out this video here. Like if the video was helpful, and consider subscribing. See you next time.